Good afternoon. I'm Edward Nelson Fell. My wife Ann and I founded Fellsmere and started developing it in 1911. In 1884, prior to me being married to Ann, I founded the town of Narcoossee, northeast of St. Cloud, Florida. We are standing in front of the Charles and Helen Piffard house. Charles was a very important figure in the early development of Narcoossee and Fellsmere. He was the president of the State Bank of Fellsmere and served on the Fellsmere Board of Trade, the Fellsmere Commercial Club Board, and the Protective Committee following the bankruptcy of the Fellsmere Farms Company. He helped establish the Fellsmere Producers Union and Fellsmere Preserving Canning Company and was instrumental in securing a new engine for the Fellsmere Municipal Power Plant. He was elected Chief Commissioner for the town of Fellsmere and served in that position until his hasty departure from Fellsmere in 1922. Charles Piffard became associated with me during the time that I founded the town of Narcoossee. He was only 28 years old when he accompanied me in 1902 to journey to Kazakhstan, Siberia, Russia to help manage coal mines, copper mines, and a copper smelting works. After returning to the United States in 1908, Charles used his fortune to enter into a banking career in New York City. 4 years later, he married Helen Louise Brown. During the early development days of Fellsmere, the board of directors of the Fellsmere Farms Company and I realized that Fellsmere needed a bank because the nearest bank was 38 miles south in Fort Pierce, Florida. I convinced Charles to move to Fellsmere and start the State Bank of Fellsmere. Thus, Charles and Helen came to Fellsmere on April 8, 1913. In 1913, F.D. DeLoe, the general superintendent of the Florida Building and Supply Company of Orlando, supervised the construction of the Piffard's 5-room house. The front of the house faced south and overlooked the northwest corner of the 9.4-acre Washington Park. Washington Park is now the site of the Fellsmere Elementary School. The house was completed in July 1913. Also, construction began on the bank building in the spring of 1913. The bank is the State Bank of Fellsmere and is located on the northwest corner of Colorado and Broadway, which is now the Fellsmere Community Center. Charles Piffard joined the Fellsmere Farmers Fraternity in May 1913 and headed a committee to negotiate with the electric company to provide streetlights on the principal streets in town. On July 1, 1913, the State Bank of Fellsmere opened to the public. By September 1913, there were 133 accounts and 4% interest was paid on deposits. The bank offered 10 large and 40 small manganese steel safe deposit boxes. It also had a large vault and a safe. In addition to being the bank president, Charles Piffard sold real estate, managed properties, and sold fire, accident, and life insurance. In August 1913, he was appointed to the executive board of the Fellsmere Board of Trade, which held its meetings at the State Bank of Fellsmere. In 1915, Charles Piffard helped establish the Fellsmere Producers Union. When new owners of the Fellsmere Electric Light and Power Plant bought the plant in 1917, for some unknown reason, they promptly shut it down. The Fellsmere Commercial Club and the town commissioners rallied to the cause to buy the plant and keep the electric running. Charles Piffard's mother, Helen H. Piffard, was married to Mr. Morse in 1911. Mr. Morse was the founder and controlling partner of the Fairbanks Morse Company. Piffard contacted his stepfather to plead for a new engine to restore electricity to the town of Fellsmere, and within 2 weeks the new engine arrived. Fellsmere had electricity once again. Charles' wife, Helen, was elected second vice president of the St. Lucie County Federation of Women's Clubs on April 19, 1917, and was appropriated to a committee to look after the proposition of establishing a canning system that would conserve waste in vegetables and fruit. In March 1917, Piffard was appointed as chairman of the Protective Committee to protect the interests and rights of deed and contract holders of the defunct Fellsmere Farms Company that had gone into receivership following the Great Flood of July 31, 1915. In 1920, Charles Piffard helped establish the Fellsmere Preserving and Canning Company, most likely as a result of his wife's Helen work with the St. Lucie County Federation of Women's Clubs on establishing a canning system for fruits and vegetables. Charles Piffard held the position of bank president from 1913 to 1922. He and his wife, Helen, lived in the house on Maple Street behind me until March 1922. Piffard served as the Chief Commissioner of the town of Fellsmere from February 11, 1919, until his disappearance in March 1922, when an attaché from the Florida office of the Comptroller discovered a shortage of $30,000 missing from the bank's coffers. The State Bank of Fellsmere was closed in 1922, shortly thereafter. Charles Piffard died in Paris on November 24, 1925, at the age of 51. Just before the Piffards hastily left Fellsmere, Helen Piffard, who was friends with the Kinneys, told them they could move into the house, which they did. Roy Kinney briefly served as the Chief Commissioner of the town of Fellsmere, and after Charles Piffard's departure. After Indian River County was established in 1925, Roy Kinney was appointed by Florida Governor John W. Martin as one of the first Fellsmere City Councilmen. The house was very spacious. It had 2 bedrooms and a bathroom off of both bedrooms. It had a living room, a dining room, fireplace in between, no mechanical heat, and a screened porch on the west, and then a long open porch that faced south, and that's where the entrance of the house was. There was a 3-room guest cottage besides the main house, and also there was a double-car garage. Most intriguingly, however, was the glass pane in the double-wide front door that had a bullet hole in it. After the Fellsmere Development Corporation bought the house in 1946, Dr. Jones rented it. In 1955, Dolly and Joe C. Tyson from Swainsboro, Georgia, moved into the house. Joe Tyson went to work as a fabricator at Piper Aircraft in Vero Beach and stayed there for 17 years. Dolly Tyson filled Joan Tyson's place, but Joan was not related to Dolly. She filled her place at the start of the 1956-1957 school year in Fellsmere as secretary to Principal Daniel Frisbee. In October 1966, the Fellsmere City Council appointed Dolly Tyson to the position of Fellsmere City Clerk. She served for approximately 4.5 years until March 1971. Dolly maintained a good friendship with Principal Daniel Frisbee, but, unfortunately, he died of a heart attack in her living room during a visit in 1971. Joe Tyson died in 1995, and Dolly died in 2016. Following the death of Dolly Tyson, the home has been sold to numerous individuals who have maintained the home as a private residence closed to the public. The Piffard House was one of the finest houses in all of Fellsmere when it was built. If you would like to know more about the history of the Piffard House, including the personal stories of some of the people who lived in it, you can use your smartphone to read the QR code to access the City of Fellsmere's website, or use the city's website address as shown on the walking tour brochure.